We love a good show just as much as the next person.
The plot, the characters, the twists and turns.
Sometimes it all needs a deeper discussion
We're two babes just giving the people what they want on
on
mystery,
mystery,
murder,
murder,
and
and
melanin.
melanin.
Welcome back to Mystery, Murder, and Melanin. I'm your co-host, Yelly.
And I'm your co-host, Harmony.
Today, we've got a lot to go over and break down in episode five of Netflix's Beauty in Black.
Yes, we do. So let's get on into it. So quickly going over the characters that we've already been talking about. Kimmy's our main girl, Mallory, Roy, they're married. Jules, he's kind of the head king with the over at the strip club. He's over Kimmy. He's also in charge of security for the Bellery family. We have Horace and Norman, they're brothers. They're both at the top of the Bellery family. We have Ina, she's in the hospital. That's Norman's wife. We've got Angel, he's the Latin dancer. He's always so been hooking up now or dancing for Horace. We've got Calvin, he's the driver for Mallory. And we have Jillian, Mallory's assistant. And then the new character that we finally have unnamed now, the lawyer, his name is Varney.
Yeah, I put that in my notes because, like, when they said it, I was like, oh, that's his name.
And I was like, oh, snap, Varney. Varney, what you
Also,
doing? What
Barney,
you
what kind of name?
doing?
Yeah, we got some things to talk
There's a
about with
lot of
Barney.
interesting names in this series.
Yeah, there are. I wonder like how he came up with them because yeah, they're not like normal. I don't want to say normal names, just like not common. I feel like within the Black
Mhm.
community. But anyways, okay, y'all. So let's get on into episode 5. So we are starting off a little bit strong, you guys. Body, Delinda, and two strippers show up to Kimmy's apartment slash hotel. And, Kimmy is standing out there and they're like, where have you been? Well, Body is the one. She's like, where have you been? I've been calling your phone for hours. And Kimmy, she doesn't say where she's been. And also, like, when Body even first pulled up, she freaking punches Kimmy in the face, like
Yeah.
decks her in the face. Cause y'all already know how Body's coming when it comes to Kimmy. And so Kimmy's not saying nothing. She done got punched in the face and Body is mad. And so they make her get into a car with them and then they all leave.
Yeah, it was a heated intro for the episode.
Yeah. And I feel like
That's true.
unless I missed it, but they never really, at least in this episode, maybe they will in the next one, but I didn't see anything that told us where they took her.
You wasn't paying attention. We'll get into it.
Was I not? I feel I was
They
literally
they drop her off and she goes into the hotel.
Oh, okay. See, I thought for some reason something jumped. I didn't realize that that was connected to. Okay, that makes sense. I did put that in my notes, but I wasn't connecting it to that. I was literally like, "Oh my gosh, where did they even take her during this episode?" Like, they didn't tell
Yeah.
us.
At first, I was thinking they were gonna like take her to Jules, but like last episode, Roy was like, "Bring her, get her. I need to talk
Hmm.
to her."
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for connecting that.
So yeah, the next scene, Norman is at Ina's bedside, and Jules comes in to see him, and he's like, "Okay, what do you want?" And Jules lets him know like there was a triple homicide at the tow yard, and does this have a connection with Ina and why she's in the hospital? And so Norman, this gets him worked up. He's like, there's my family has something to do with this. Like, we have to protect her. They want all of my shares. Like, if anything happens to me, she gets all of my shares, and they want her out. And Jules is like trying to play it cool this entire time. Like, he's just listening to him, like trying to keep him calm at the same time. And so Norman kind of like lets us know some more background into maybe what the family will is and like maybe what motives the family might have to wanting Ina dead. And he says, if there's no wife and no children, if something were to happen to Norman, if there's no wife and no children, then his shares would go back to the family. And to me, this part is like a little muddy to me because And he says like that's how his father set it up. It's part of the will. What does his father have to do with this empire? Because him and his brother are the ones who created the hair care part or the perm, at least, that the lawsuit is being talked about because Norman is the one who they said he's the chemist.
Yeah.
And then he's also a judge. Like what? There's just so many pieces now that are not really piecing together.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even think too much into it when he said like my father did, because in my head I was just like, oh yeah, the father must have like started a company, but it's like, no, wait, we literally talked in the last episode about like both Norman and Horace's like parts in the development of the company. So I wonder if maybe they did create that company, but maybe it's under a bigger like conglomerate or something, and maybe the dad is over that or started that. I don't know. I know we'll probably get some more information, but yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty good with connecting things. So maybe this is just like a piece to something that might come out later. And like you said, I was thinking too, maybe the family has old money. Maybe they come from a family with money. This is another, you know, piece or industry, that branched off that was funded from the family's money, you know?
Yeah.
So Jules is like, trying to reassure him that they're gonna find the killer. And Norman tells him at the end of this conversation, like, good, okay, you get out of here. Ina needs to rest. The doctor should be coming tomorrow to take her out of her coma. And so, like, right when he said that, I'm like, oh, you probably shouldn't have told Jules that. Like, Jules is like a double agent at this point.
Yeah.
We don't really
No, for
know if
real.
he's rocking with Norman or if he's rocking with Roy and Mallory.
hmm
So yeah, he drops that piece. So Ina might be waking up.
So after this, we see that Joel, he calls Mallory immediately. He's like, I tried to call Roy. He's not answering. So I'm calling you. And he says he's on his way to talk to her father-in-law, aka Horace, to give him the update on Ina because Norman says that she's making progress and the doctors think that they could take her out of the coma the next day. And Mallory is like, she really doesn't care about this situation. Like, she's more like, oh, you couldn't get a hold of Roy? Where's Roy at? Like, why can't you get a hold of him? Where's he at? And Jules is just like, girl, do we have to talk about this every time I call you? Like, I don't know where that man is. So Mallory's
Seriously.
just like, whatever. And then like it was a very short little scene of like just their interaction, but we obviously see he's concerned and she's not concerned in her as she normally is. And so after this, we see that Kimmy goes to Roy's, and this is where Harmony has connected the first scene for me. So Kimmy is at Roy's and she goes up to his, I don't know if he's at a hotel or he has another apartment situation going on, but she goes up to his room
Mhm.
and he asks her if she called his wife because we know that in the previous episode, he figured out that like Mallory got a phone call and it was from his phone, but he didn't call her. And so she's like, no, like I didn't do it. And he's like, you have no idea what it's like to be me. He's like, I have a mom and a dad who hate me. And basically, like, I have a gay loser brother, and all the pressure is on him to like run the company. And then he's like, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. Like, you're just a whore. Like, I'm like, what is the correlation with that? Like, what does that mean? Like,
I could not take him in this situation. Like the woe is me. Like
mm-hmm.
cue the tiny violin. Like, okay, dude,
Yeah.
your life is so hard.
Right. And it's like I'm literally a stripper slash like escort who's in like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And I literally am living in a hotel room and I'm having to come up here, get verbally abused by you, do things I don't want to do, but you want
Unfortunate.
me to sit here and feel sorry for you? No. So he tells Kimmy to like take off her clothes and she takes off, well, she kind of takes it off. She just like opens up her coat that she has on. And he's like, And so he starts trying to like get himself going, but he can't. And he's just like, what kind of whore are you? You can't even get me up. And it's like that is literally not her fault, sir.
He's got issues.
Yeah, he's got bigger issues than that. And so,
Mhm.
he tells Kimmy, "You know what? You're too stupid to have called my wife." And then he tells her that she needs to just like get the fuck out. And so she does. And I'm just like, "What? This man is just always insulting. Like
Yeah.
he's the stupid one because it's like, dude, she was the only one in the room with you and you know that you didn't call your wife. So how else would the phone have called the wife?"
But we don't know who else he might hook up with, you know?
True, that's true. Because I don't think she ever, Valerie, I don't think she ever specified like a day when she's been asking him, like, who is the person you were with? I don't think she ever specified like a specific day. So maybe
Like,
that could
yeah,
work.
if it was that night that he came home or not.
Yeah.
But I feel like, when he came home, she was like, you butt dialed me. But you're right. I don't think she specifically was like, tonight you butt dialed me or
Hmm.
yesterday or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he thought like obviously it was that night just because,
Yeah,
but I feel like I don't know what is up with him. Like he really is stupid
he is.
because I'm just
And they
like,
both are rude. They both talk crazy to everybody around them,
yeah,
him
and
and
to each
Mallory.
other. Yeah.
hmm So, next scene, Horace and our Latin stripper are finishing up in the hotel room, and Angel asks him if he wants his number. And Horace is like, no, I think Kimmy, is our good middle person. And kind of Angel, I feel like takes this as like a dig, and he says like, okay, so Kimmy's my pimp now. And Horace is like, no, he just rather keep a middle person. And he's like, so you're paying Kimmy for me though? And he's like, no, I'm not paying Kimmy for you. So I feel like in this situation, are they making it clear that like Kimmy's not getting any money on top of setting up him and Angel, or is he just telling him that? Because I mean, Kimmy is getting some benefits of she's driving his truck around, or the
Hmm.
gardener's truck around.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's getting any more money, but in the past, she did get some money for hooking them up.
Yeah. But even then, I don't feel like she really got the money. He just needed to pay because of the fact he's in the VIP room, you know? And it's like, I
But
can't
I
just
feel
walk
like
out of
she
here and you
did
not
take some
pay.
off the top because she was like, don't give me all of it here.
True, true.
So she's taking some from off the top.
Yeah. I don't know. I
She's
don't
making
know.
some money.
Yeah. I don't know what their purpose was for that little conversation.
She's, I think he didn't want to get Kimmy into any mess, but Kimmy definitely is playing the role of like a pimp in this situation.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. Yeah. Maybe he was thinking like, okay, Kimmy's already told me she's not trying to do any like robbery or whatever. So if I can just get more, I guess, trust going between me and Horace, then he can just do everything. And like you said, keep Kimmy out of it.
So at the end of that conversation, I feel like Jules like kind of maybe like out of character for himself. Like he's really trying to put on to like make Horace come back and like want him more. And so he like flashes Horace like his junk and it's like, this will be waiting for you next time. And
Hmm.
Horace is like, I bet it is. Like I couldn't tell if Horace liked it or not.
Right? Because his face didn't really give like, ooh, yes, entice me.
And Angel felt like he looked awkward too doing it. He was just like, ugh, like once
Yeah.
Horace left. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think Horace was like trying to feel out if he even likes this.
Yeah.
He had that conversation with Kimmy and he's like, I've never done this before, I'm old and sick and I just wanted to try it out.
Hmm. Also, maybe the vibe was just, killed because
Oh
earlier he
yeah.
had coughed up like blood
Yeah.
and everything. So maybe he's just like, I'm just ready to go home. It's late. I'm old.
You're right. So the last episode he coughed up blood on him. So like yeah, the whole mood is just shot at this point. It's like let's just end this encounter. Possibly see you next time.
Yeah. I am happy though that this was like the encounter because the way it ended in the last episode, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Angel's gonna end up robbing him and something's gonna happen to Horace." So I'm
Yeah,
happy that nothing happened.
I'm happy too.
So, after their little conversation, you know, Horace walks out of the hotel room and Kimmy is out there. She's back and he's telling her goodnight and like, sorry it took longer. And, Kimmy is still being Kimmy. She's just not in the mood for anything. And so she goes inside. Angel is in there. He's like, something's wrong with Horace. He's coughed up blood. And Kimmy, she's like, let me go get this alcohol out this drawer or whatever and get me a little cup. She's over it. She's had just a day. And so, Angel's still talking. Pretty much, he's talking to Kimmy, but she's not really saying anything. And he's just like, I'll keep dancing for Horace, but I'm not going to let him touch me. And Angel says, his girl has been blowing up his phone this whole time because they've been in this hotel room. Like, he's been in this hotel room with Horace apparently for hours. I don't know how many hours, but apparently it's been for
Yeah,
hours.
yeah.
And like, I wasn't thinking it lasts. Like, I don't mean I've never done anything like that, but I just feel like, oh, you're just dancing. Like, wouldn't it just be like a little 30 minutes or something?
Maybe it took a minute because he like coughed up blood.
Hmm. That's
Maybe
true.
that derailed the night for a second.
Maybe. So he says his girl has been blowing him up. He answers the phone. You can like hear through the phone that she's like yelling at him and asking him like, where is he at? She's like, "Where are you at? Are you with like that bitch from the strip club?" And he's like, "What? No, I'm not with anybody." Blah 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 blah. And then he's like, or she's like, "Oh, are you at the hotel or in her room or whatever?" He's like, "What?" The next thing you hear is some smashed windows, some window smashing, and he goes outside. His baby mama is out there smashing the windows of his car. She's got apparently her two brothers with her that are like just there, like, okay, Angel, you're not gonna try anything. She's gonna smash your windows, and that's gonna be that. And she tells Angel, like, not to come back to their house. And he's like, wait, Angel Jr. is my son too. And she's just like, no, you can't come back to the house because if you come back, my brothers will be there waiting for you. So Angel is just like obviously frustrated. He's mad. He's upset because the girl just smashed the windows of his car. That's his ride. Now he can't go home. He doesn't have anywhere to go. He goes back into the hotel room with Kimmy and he's just like mad. And he's like, I'm tired of this. He's like, that watch that Horace had would have got us $1 million and we basically be set. We wouldn't even be having to do any of this. And Kimmy is sitting on the other end of the bed, like facing him and she's crying. He's like saying this, and then she's just like, okay, let's do it. Like she's down to do his plan of robbing Horace or getting some money from Horace.
Yeah. I feel like Angel was kind of surprised. Like he was continuing on this rant, and
Hmm.
she's like, I feel like still in shock, she just found out like Kimmy has died. I mean,
Rain.
not Kimmy. Rain has died. She went and saw Roy. He belittled her again. Like she's kind of like in a spiral right now. Body and Delinda keep pulling up on her, beating her ass. Like she just keep going through it. And I feel like just Angel is just really getting in her head now. She's like, okay,
I
yeah,
I
let's
feel
let's do
like
it.
and I feel like what really set it off is the me is with Roy, him saying like she's too stupid. I feel like she's like, "Oh, I'm too stupid. Okay, I'm gonna show you now." Like,
Hmm. Remember in the first episode, she can be a real vindictive bitch. That's what
yeah.
Rain said.
Mhm.
So next scene, we see Horace is sitting next to his fireplace, and Jules walks in. And so Jules is like, I got some information to tell you. Horace is like, this could have been over the phone. We got our phone lines locked down. Like, and Jules is like, this is an in-person conversation. I just came back from talking with your brother and your sister-in-law, and it looks like she's getting better. And so Horace is like, okay, what does that mean? Like weighing out the logistics of will she remember anything if she wakes up? And Jules is like, Probably not, but I wouldn't take that chance." And Jules is like, I can take care of this right now if you want. I'm like, dang, okay, Jules, we see what side you taking. And Horace is like, okay, no, that'll be too messy. Let me think about this for a second. And he says, he's donated a lot of money to the hospital. And he says he has a connect that, oh, no, no, no. First, he asks why really Jules cares about this so much. And Jules is like, basically implies one of your sons are are the reason why this has happened. And Horace is like, who? Which one? Like, tell me. And Jules tries not to answer at first, but Horace yells and he's like, it was Roy. And when he said that, I was like, wow, Roy is really writing for Mallory in this moment.
And I don't understand this because I'm like, she's literally only married into the family. Like she isn't I mean, she's the family, but she's not the family. So it's like you're choosing to cover up Mallory's situation over the actual sons.
This is why I think Mallory and him have done something in the past together.
Maybe.
Because we start to see how Mallory starts to treat Calvin later on too. So I'm like, I think she might be a man eater. Like she might like one time and then kick him to the curb,
Maybe.
shut it down. So he's like, he doesn't say Mallory's name. He says that it's Roy. And Horace is like, oh my goodness, I do. These boys have been giving me hell since the moment they were born. You have always been protecting them. And Jules is like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, I've got to protect all of you, That's what I'm thinking in my head. Like Jules is like, I protect you guys as a whole.
Hmm.
And then so this makes me think too, like, is he way older than Roy and them? Because Horace says you've been protecting them since they were born.
Yeah. And see, this goes back to our conversation last episode. Because remember, I was thinking Jules wasn't that old. And you're like, no, like he's old.
I think they are trying to make him older than them now, for sure now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was thinking they might have been the same age, but now
Hmm.
he's like, you've been protecting them since they were born.
Yeah.
And so Jules says, I can take care of it. Horace is like, no, I have a connect. I feel like we got to be smarter than that. We can't just, we see how Jules takes care of things. He goes in and guns a blazing. Like, we cannot go into a hospital doing that,
Hmm.
especially with the Bellary name connected to it. And so Horace says, he made a donation to the hospital and he should be able to call in a favor with Peter Framer, owes him a favor. And Jules is like, who is Peter Framer? And he says he's the director of patient services. And Jules is like, what type of favor does he owe you? And Horace says, the only favors I hold are bodies buried. So we see now too, Horace has some dirt in his history too.
Hmm.
It's not just Norman, I feel like that we should be afraid of. Like Horace, he's got some skeletons in his closet too, or at least he's holding some skeleton bags.
Hmm. Yeah.
So then the next scene, we see a nurse goes in to check on Ina's fluids, and she starts talking to Norman. She's making small talk, and she mentions getting him a bed so that he could be more comfortable. And to me, she seems super suspect, especially after the scene that we just saw.
Yep.
And so she's looking at the fluids, she's squeezing them. She's like, "Oh, she's doing good. You must really love her. How are you doing?" And, he's like, "I'm doing fine, better than how she is. And I feel like this nurse is just like really trying to stroke Norman's ego. She's like, "You are such a loving husband. She's so lucky to have you. Your family has done so much for this hospital." Like, she's just trying to talk and talk and talk, I feel like, and like
Hmm.
mask whatever she's doing
Yeah.
in that bedside right there. And we see that she has a needle in her hand, and when she see that she's by her IV fluids, she can be messing with who knows what, but she has a needle in her hand, and she has given Ina something.
Yeah.
And so, she's like, if you want a bed, just let us know. We can help you be more comfortable in here. And he thanks her and she leaves.
Very suspicious.
Very suspicious.
So after that, Mallory calls Calvin and, she's like sitting at a couch. She's got her laptop up. She's doing her detective work. We can see that she's like looking at a map and it also is showing like some different devices. She's trying to figure out where Roy is at, but his devices are not popping up. He must have like disconnected
She's
them or
so
something.
thirsty.
But she's trying to track him and she's like, none of his devices are showing up. And so Calvin is like, I don't know, where he's at. And then she asked him, how close are you to Jules? And he's like, not like that close. So she's just concerned about their little rendezvous they had in the last episode. She doesn't want him to tell Jules what happened between them. And so
Mhm,
basically she's asking like, are we, she's like, oh, we're on the same page about the situation. And he's like,
mhm.
yeah, like I'm not going to tell Jules anything. So Mallory, because she's still hung up on trying to figure out who is the woman that Roy was with, she tells Calvin, she's like, I need to know where Roy is. And Calvin's like, well, the last time I asked Jules anything about Roy, he got really upset. And so Mallory's like, well, why were you asking anything about Roy? And Calvin was like, oh, I just was told he was doing something. And she's like, what? And he's like, he was with another woman, but he doesn't know who. And Mallory tells Calvin, she's like, I need to know anything Roy is doing. And Calvin's basically like, it's going to be kind of hard for me to figure out information because, Jules is going to get upset. And there's just not really much other way for him to find out anything about Roy without asking Jules. And she's just like, well, I'll make it worth your while, for you to tell me what's going on with Roy. And so he's like, understood, basically. And then he leaves.
Yeah. And I felt like in that situation too, he was like, "Oh, what are you gonna make worth my while? So with the money?" And she's like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And I feel like he's like really trying to feel like see if they can get into any more hanky panky in the future. Like
hmm
I feel like he keeps like questioning that without like saying it.
I
Like
feel
he
like he's
keeps like,
being smart right here. Like,
mm-hmm.
I feel like there's ulterior motives for sure with
Oh yeah,
him.
for sure.
Like, I don't think he seriously wants to be doing anything with Mallory, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's looking at like, okay, the more I can be doing with her, the more I have on her to like
Mm-hmm.
use at some point. Like maybe I will use it and be like, give me some money or I'm gonna tell because she's so big on like her image. So he probably
Mm-hmm.
could do some little blackmail situation.
This is true. So the next scene, Bobby and Delinda and some girls are out eating at like a little diner. And then Jules pulls up outside and Body's like, oh, okay, let me go outside and talk to him, see what he wants. And so she hops in the car and Jules is like, did you find Kimmy? Why wasn't she answering her phone? And I feel like Body really didn't have a real answer. Like she didn't, I guess they did ask Kimmy where she was and like why she wasn't answering, and Kimmy just wasn't saying anything.
hmm
And so Body tells Jules, she was just doing that to make me mad. And so this is not an answer that Jules wants to hear, So Jules is like, are you the wrong girl for this? Have I made a mistake? Do I need to rethink, And so he's having this conversation. He's like, maybe I should put Kimmy on top. And Body's like, oh, hell no, in her head. She wouldn't say that to Jules. She's like, no, 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 no. Like, I got this. Like, please don't do this to me. And he's like, do this to you? He's like, what about me? He's like, I don't like being disappointed. And, why are you guys not listening to me, basically? And so she's like, just give me another chance. I can do this. Like, let me make it up to you. And she goes to reach over to his pants and tries to touch him down there. And he is like, what are you doing? And like in disgust. And he's like, open your mouth. And he's like, I have seen, you think I don't see all the men that have been in there? He's like, you disrespect me like that? You think I would want you like that? And I felt really bad for her in this moment. Like, dang, dude, like she's supposed to be your top. She can't do nothing for you, I guess. But basically degrades her
Mhm.
and kicks her out of the car. And it's like, just get out. And she's saying, I'm sorry, I can do this role basically. And so she's pissed off, She goes back into the diner. She kicks out the other girls from the table with her. And Delinda, she like, dang, is that bad? Like, what happened? And she's like, he thinking about giving Kimmy my spot. And Delinda's like, oh hell no, you can't let that happen. And Buddy was like, I know, I'm not gonna let that happen. I'll kill her before that happens. And so I mean not Kimmy, Delinda and Buddy are sitting there starting to plot now. Like they plotting on Kimmy on like how they can bring her down. And Body starts asking about Kimmy's mom. Dylan was like, dang, what you finna get her kicked out her spot or something? Like, dang, what you want her mama for? And she's like, nah, like, don't she got a sister or something? Dylan like, I don't know. And she like, dang, what she care about? The only thing she cared about was Rain. We know, like, Rain really not around. Like, she can't use Rain against her right now. And then they're like, oh, Angel, like, she be around Angel too sometimes. And then they start thinking they like, oh, her and Angel, they hooking up. They hooking up. Yeah, they might be. So now I'm thinking, they might try and use Angel against Kimmy or
Mhm.
see how they can finagle something to try and like knock Kimmy down. Like they feel like Kimmy is like on her high horse when really Kimmy is just going through so much. Like she is just not listening to them. And that's the only thing she's doing is like not
Yeah.
listening to what they're telling her to do. Like I don't think Kimmy is plotting to be on top. Maybe
Mhm.
she is, because like from the first episode, Rain did say like, you keep thinking this dude's gonna make you number one and you don't even know his real name. So like maybe that might be on her radar for being like the top bitch in charge, but like at this point, I don't see that.
And now that you bring that back up from the very first episode, it's like we literally haven't seen anything from Kimmy that would even like she hasn't said anything. She hasn't given any type of like indication that she even wants to be around these people like at all. So it's interesting that Rain did say that in the very first
Mm,
episode because it's like we haven't seen that from Kimmy so far
yeah.
that she's trying to be anything but other than trying to get out.
Other than trying to get out, trying to go to school.
Mhm.
So this scene ends with like Body and Delinda having some like cute ratchet ass banter. Okay, so that scene ends, and now we go over back to the hospital. Norman gets up and he goes to the nurse's station. And he's like, you know what? I think I will take that bet that you offered before. And there's two nurses at the station, and they're looking confused, like, What are you talking about?" He's like, "The nurse that came in the room before, she like, offered to, bring me a bed in there because I was uncomfortable." And they're like, we're the only two nurses here. And he's like, she had a bun in her head just like you. She came in a little while ago. And they're like, was this hours ago? And he's like, I don't know. I didn't have my watch on me. And they're like, well, I mean, we had shift change at midnight. And again, we don't know what time it is either. Like, they're not telling us what time it is at that moment. So Norman's kind of like a little out of it. He's been at his wife's bedside for days now, and he's not really keeping track of time. This nurse came in the middle of the night, checking on his wife, doing something. And now he's going to the nurse's station, and these women are acting like they have no idea what he's talking about. And so the nurse is like, we'll get you a bed to help you like be comfortable, but like they don't know what he's talking about because neither of them have gone into his room, and there's no other nurses there at this time. And so Norman goes back into his wife's hospital room, and he's just looking super confused.
And then the next scene that we see, Mallory, she calls Charles and she's basically like, listen, we need to huddle because we need to talk about this situation with the lawsuit against the company. And so it was just like a very quick little conversation, but we see that Charles is at his home and there is a man there at his home and he's in the shower. And we don't fully see everything, but he's in the shower while Charles is, getting off the phone with Mallory.
Gasp.
This is where we learn that the man that we didn't know his name, the attorney, uh, Charles is calling him Varney. So I'm feeling like that's the last name. It's giving last name to me. So I feel like we still don't know his
Okay.
first name, but Varney is giving last name to me, but it could be first name. And he's the one that's in Charles's shower. I was shooketh. I was shooketh.
Same.
I was like, oh, now this is why he was not taking
He was
any of
not
Mallory's
going.
little,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, it makes sense. It makes so much
Yeah.
sense. So, Charles goes to Barney and he's like, what do I need to know? Because Mallory's called him and is talking about the lawsuit. And Barney is just like, listen, like this lawsuit, it could take the whole company under. And that means that you would lose everything. And he's kind of giving like he's looking a type of way. And Charles just like, what? Like what does that mean? And so Barney's like, how much money do you have set aside? It's giving Charles probably never saves a dime. It's giving he just lives his life on the edge probably. And Barney tells Charles, you need to sober up and focus. And Charles is asking him like because apparently Barney has wherever his vehicle is, he has to keep it out of sight, out of dodge of the family because the family does not know that they have this little situationship going on. And Barney Charles is asking him, like, why do we have to hide our relationship? And Barney is like, first of all, what are you talking about? You are in and out of the club every night with another man, and you sitting here talking about us as a relationship. And Barney is basically like, listen, you know what the situation is. Like, I have needs, you have needs. That's it. That's all. So I was just like, hmm.
Hmm.
I'm kind of getting Barney seems loyal to the family.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was kind of getting a vibe of like, does he have an ulterior motive?
Mm-hmm.
Is it that he wouldn't want to be with Charles if Charles doesn't have any money? Is that the only reason why he's dealing with Charles? Because of the fact that he's rich? So that's kind of what their conversation was giving to me.
I felt like I felt like they were really kind of feeling each other. Like I felt like they were giving like cutesy vibes. And mind you, these dudes both were fine. Like let's not pass over like their bodies were bodying in this scene, like muscles glistening. Like they both was looking good. But I do think that Varney has a soft spot for Charles, but he's also like no, this is my best client. Your family is my best client. So I'm not gonna mess up my best clientele if me and you really are not for real or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because case in point, you be in the club every night.
Hmm.
So I didn't really get any sinister vibes from him because I feel like he is a reputable lawyer that's trying to like keep his name clear. And I feel
Hmm.
like that's probably why he's trying to keep it on the low because Charles is the F boy of the family.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good connection, appearances are everything. So we'll keep that on the low. It's already, he's gonna be a gay lawyer. And
Hmm.
it's like I'm not gonna just be playing around with who my spouse is. I can keep that behind closed doors. But if
Yeah.
if you wanted to get serious, but I don't think Charles is for real about being serious right now. Like he's
Yeah.
basically telling him you need to sober up
Yeah.
and is
Very
really
true.
being a good friend, looking out for him in that moment. Like, get your finances in order.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even give Mallory that information. That's the information Mallory was trying to get at that dinner.
Yeah. But I feel like Mallory is smart. I feel like she probably already has, something
She
kind of
probably
like,
does, but she wanted to hear that from Varney.
yeah. I feel like I don't need a lawyer to tell me that. If we're facing as much as high of a lawsuit they're facing, sir, you don't have to tell me anything. I'm going to make sure I have my stuff set aside.
But she literally asked that, and he was like, "You don't want to start switching over too many assets because they could follow that trail or something." Like she asked that.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know why he didn't give that to her. Like, yeah, do that. Like,
Hmm.
so Mallory goes and wakes up Roy, and she's like, "Can you zip up my dress for me? I see you came in at 3 a.m." And she has an iPad in her hand, and she shows him it. She's like, "Read this." And he's like, what are you giving me?" And she's like, "You can read, can't you?" Like they really are trying to allude that Roy is just so stupid. And so she's like, basically shows him some blogs about, a scandal happening between a married couple. And she's like, I'll be damned if you have me being some bitch on a blog. Like, I would kill you. And he's like you did my aunt. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, Mallory is never gonna say that she hit this woman
Yeah.
after it happened right away. It never happened in Mallory's mind now. Like I think she might be that delusional that like she's telling herself it enough, like it didn't happen to her in her mind.
I feel like Mallory's just smart. Like, I'm not gonna
Mhm.
say anything because you could be recording on your phone. You could have something secret recording. And if I say anything, now you have it. So I feel like her thing is just like, I'm just gonna deny it at every turn.
She's denying it to the end, boy. And so her and Roy in their crazy dysfunctional fashion start going back and forth, going in on each other. Roy's like, you were that poor ass teen when I met you. Now you're a whore or a hoe for the family, basically. And she's like, I worked for every penny that I have now. And she's like, and what are you, a spoiled brat ass druggie? And like calls him a little boy. And so they go back and forth and they end like they always do. She storms out like, I'm gonna go make some money, like get like me.
Mm-hmm.
Mallory walks to her car and Jillian's standing out there waiting by her car. Calvin's waiting by the car as well, her driver and assistant. And Mallory's like, Jillian, you know what? Go pick up my dry cleaning. And Jillian's like, oh, I did that yesterday for you. And she trying to hop in the car with Mallory. Mallory's like, well, whatever. I don't want you riding with me. She's like,
Like, Jillian cannot catch a break with Mallory. Like, Mallory never wants this girl in the car.
why is she so mean to this girl?
I think she's just project. She just feels the way I think towards like any woman
She's
around
like, I
them.
don't want you riding with me. You smell like grease and mothballs. You smell like Jim Crow.
And when she said this, I made the same face Jillian made because Jillian made a face like, "What the fuck does Jim Crow smell like? Like what?" I made the exact same face. I was like, "Huh?
Or
Who
you
even
just
says
trying to
that?"
get anything
Like Tyler
off?
Perry. Why did you even? How did you even come up with saying that? Why did you say that?
I have no idea, but it was funny. So Calvin looking stupid too. Like he getting on my nerves right here. He looking like he want to laugh.
I wanted Jillian to say something. I wanted her to say something so bad, but she's not gonna risk it.
So Mallory's like, close my door to Calvin. And she's like, you know what? Did you sit in this spot? So she jump up and go to the other side of the car because Jillian says she sat in that spot.
She's so
I'm like,
extra.
it's so damn extra.
So after this, we see Jillian. She goes in Mallory and Roy's bedroom, and Roy's in there. And so he's just like, oh, like shocked that she walked in because she's grabbing a dress. She went and grabbed a dress. She's like, oh, Mallory wanted me to grab her this dress. So she grabs some blue dress and then she like drops her phone. I think she
Oh,
did it on purpose and does a
oh,
little
yeah.
like little type of bend down to get the phone. And Roy's looking like, what is happening right now? Like he's really looking like, what the fuck is happening? And so he's like, so if I call Mallory, is she gonna say that you're supposed to be getting a dress for her? And Julian, she's kind of panicking a little. You could tell she's like, yeah. And so he goes, he's like, okay. And he gets his phone and he acts like he's about to call Mallory and Jillian's like, no, 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 like I will get in so much trouble, da 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 da. And he's like, oh, she's trying to set me up. He's like, Mallory's trying to set me up. And he tells Jillian to like get out of the room. And so she gets out. She's like embarrassed and everything. And I think she was just trying to get back at Calvin, in some type of
Yeah.
way, or and Mallory too, because Mallory's always talking about him.
Yeah.
So she walks out because obviously her plan did not go the way she was intending for it to go. And Roy, he calls Mallory immediately, and he's like, "You think I'm stupid?" And she's like, "Actually, yes, I do." I was cracking up because she is so funny. She's so mean, but that was so funny when she said that. She's like, actually, yes, I do. And she was so serious. She was so serious about it. And he's just like, I'm not falling for it. She doesn't know what he's talking about, but he's like, I'm not falling for it because he didn't say that what Jillian did, which I mean, if he has said what Jillian did, oh, it was about to be Jillian's ass when
Yeah.
Mallory's probably going to tell Calvin, turn this car around, go back
Yeah.
to my house. But Roy didn't say what had happened. He's just like, I'm not falling for it. And, this whole conversation, Calvin, he's the driver. So he's hearing Mallory, say what she's saying. And Calvin's like, oh, was that your husband? And she's like, first of all, why do you think you can ask me anything? Like, you are my driver. Don't be listening into what I'm saying on my phone conversations and everything like that. So, we see Mallory. It doesn't matter what she had with somebody. She will still talk you down.
She gonna treat you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, this is what I see. I feel like Calvin like is overstepping his boundaries. Like he's thinking that like this might get to play into something more than what it is. And I feel like Mallory's like, boy, I hooked up with you once. Don't get it twisted.
I feel like that one TikTok meme where he's like, Savannah, slow down. Like, Calvin, y'all did one little thing. Like, relax. You not there yet to be asking all these questions and all these, trying to act like you're something you're not for her right
Right.
now.
Yeah. And so now we go back to the hospital, and the doctor walks in to see Norman and Ina. And the doctor does not have a good look on her face. She's coming to break some bad news. And she lets Norman know that the circumstances have changed. Ina has developed some bleeding on the brain, and now she has no brain activity. And tells Norman basically these machines are keeping her alive at this point. And Norman is going through all the emotions. He is, asking questions like, how could this have happened? Just yesterday you said that she would be regaining consciousness. And, the doctor's really treading lightly right now and not trying to have him blow up because they know who his family is, I feel like. And because it's just a sensitive situation altogether.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
who knows what could have happened, if it was intentional or not intentional, your health can go left or right. But
Hmm.
Norman knows that something is up. So she leaves, and Norman calls Jules. And he's like, we have to move Ina to a different hospital. He's still worked up. He's like, one minute his wife was going to be waking up, and the next minute she's not. And he had this whole crazy situation happen last night at the hospital. And so Jules is acting oblivious right now. He's
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? Like, hold on, hold on. Like, and I'm like, Jules, I feel like right in this moment, like him acting so oblivious makes it super known to Norman, like where he stands in the situation. Because
Yeah.
anybody else, I feel like, would have been like, oh, damn, what? Like, what happened?
Hmm. Yeah.
So Norman's like hangs up on him like, fuck it, I'll do it myself. And then he calls Horace and he confronts Horace about Ina. He's like, I know that you got to Ina. And he basically tells him, he's like, I will kill both of your sons. And Horace is like, don't sit up here and call me and tell me what you gonna do. Do it. And hangs up the phone.
Mm.
I'm like, he just declared war.
Once again, I just don't understand the dynamic of this family. Like, if somebody, like, I need to know why they all hate each other so much. Like, I need to know why Horace hates
Yeah.
Roy and Charles to the point that your brother just called you and told you he would kill your sons, and you're basically like, okay, if you're gonna do it, then do it.
Right.
I would have been like, no, not if I kill you first. Like, like, no,
He
you're not
said,
getting my
do it.
kids.
He said,
Like,
stop talking about it, be about it.
and I feel like also too, this lets us know, like you were saying, Jules is a double agent. Honestly, I don't even really know. He's like a triple agent. He might even be a quadruple agent. I don't know because
Yeah.
Horace told him not to do, like Jules had already said, like, oh, I could take care of her. Like, basically, I could like take her out. And Horace already said, no, 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 that would be too messy. But Jules, we are seeing, at least it seems anyway, that he must have went ahead and went behind Horace and did it his own way anyway. And we obviously know he's not on Norman's side because he done did something to Ina.
That's interesting. You think that that was Jules? I thought that that was Horace.
Really? Hmm. I mean, I didn't think Horace was gonna do. anything, but I mean, now that you just said it, I mean, I guess that
Said
does
that
kind
he was
of
gonna take care of it.
well, see, I thought, he told Jules to call the doctor. So, I mean, that one director. So I guess maybe
He
Jules
didn't tell
did.
Jules to do anything. He said that he was gonna do it. He told Jules not to do
Oh,
anything. He says, I have a connect that he will talk to. He told Jules, I have a connect.
mm,
So
mm,
to in my mind, Forrest is the one who called somebody to do something. And this way it was clean. You know,
yeah,
Jules don't know how to do something clean like this. Forrest, this is gonna look like just a medical accident.
yeah,
Her condition worsened.
yeah. Mm,
Jules was
see,
gonna go in there and probably like smother her or freaking shoot her or something stupid.
yeah, you're right. This was too, what's the word? I'm looking for a word. I don't
It was
know. But yeah,
clean.
yeah,
She came in looking, she was in their same attire and everything. Could have even been a nurse. And the nurses at the nurses station were looking goofy to me too, like they could have been in on it too.
yeah.
They could
Mm,
have not known anything, or they could have seen one of their girls go in there. But too many people knowing things um make for mistakes to happen and make for loose ends. So I don't think those nurses knew anything,
me either.
but it could have been somebody that worked at the hospital because she had the scrub, she had an ID badge on.
Hmm.
Like you're not just getting all that stuff overnight to go and walk into a hospital.
Yeah. Who knows? They know all types of people. I mean, if Horace did call that director, maybe the director Horace sent
Yeah,
somebody, or I don't
yeah.
know.
That's why I'm thinking that the director is close with somebody, or there's somebody under him that he got to go do that real quick. One of the nurses. It is
Yeah.
a nurse to do it. That's not somebody who's not a nurse to go and inject something into her IV fluids or even cause maybe an air bubble or something.
Yeah.
She definitely was a nurse.
The plot thickens. Thanks for tuning into our review of episode 5 of Beauty in Black. Let us know what you thought about this episode. And make sure you answer our poll on Spotify about whether you think the nurse that went into the wife's hospital room was Jules doing or Horace's doing. Which one of them do you think was behind that nurse? Let us know.
And if you don't want to miss any upcoming episodes, make sure you follow us on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. You can follow our show page on Instagram for the latest updates and reminders. I'm your girl, Harmony.
And I'm your girl, Yelly. Make sure you come back and join us for more mystery, murder, and melanin. Bye.
Bye.